Steve, welcome to the Impact Driven Leader podcast. Man, I'm excited to have this conversation. Excited for our audience to hear from you. You are a amazingly colorful, exciting leader. That I say that adjective is there because your personality is one I love to be around. We always have great conversations when we're together. I am thankful to have had you in my life, and I know that one thing's going to happen during the next 30, 45 minutes, hour that we talk is I'm going to smile and laugh, and I hope you do the same.
Always.
All right.
Appreciate that expectation, Tyler.
Well, I set the bar low, and then we can exceed it, by so much, and we have fun. But for our audience listening in, they've got a chance to check out your bio in the show notes. I'm going to real quick, share how we got to know each other. So we got to know each other through Equip, John Maxwell's nonprofit organization, John Maxwell Leadership Foundation. We also got to spend a couple weeks together in Israel pre-COVID. And that's where, we've had our great conversations. We also grew up in the same part of Ohio. And, there's that connection. And I've always enjoyed, again, our conversations and you taking your time to pour into me and humor me, I should say. And one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to you is have you as a guest on the podcast. And we talked about this last fall when we saw each other, is this idea of resilience. And, you have an amazing story of resilience, how you're, where you're at now, the founder CEO of Millwood Products that does, if there's a palette that is my viewpoint, anyone that's listening to this, if you are consuming some type of product today, it was probably at one point on a truck by underneath that was a pallet that Millwood either recycled, built, or had some impact in. That's how I view it. Am I right?
That's what I tell people. I don't know if it's true or not, but I tell people.
It sounds good. And, so that, we had this conversation, resilience, your history. I've shared with our podcast guests, the things that I've had to overcome. Everyone listening in, especially as a leader the last 2 years, has had to endure and go through a lot. And so, as I told you before, I got one word that I want to talk about in this podcast, and that's resilience. So I'd love for you to kind of step in and give your perspective of it. Resilience as Steve knows it here in 2022, but also the life experiences that kind of got you to that point and what you've seen, last 24 months or so.
Yeah. I love that word. I think, as we think about resilience, you can't have resilience without challenges. Mm-hmm. When you think about that. And of course, me personally, I don't like challenges, but I know one thing for sure, that challenges is what makes it creates who we are. And when we try to avoid those challenges because they're coming at us every day. And so when we just accept that fact, I know for years, when I was younger, I used to think of, man, if I just executed properly, I wouldn't face this problem or this challenge or the next challenge. And I always felt like, well, if I'm facing too great of a challenge, I must have done something wrong. I must have I'm not equipped. I'm not ready for this. I'm ill prepared. I don't measure up. And so we talk ourselves into making a challenge even worse because we don't face it. And challenges, they put a steeliness in us. And that doesn't mean that we're calloused. It's a steeliness that makes us hardened to, the next challenge where we're not, being tossed around by every day's events, that we can just show that steadiness. And I think from a leadership standpoint, if we can have that kind of a position that our teams really need to be able to know which Steve Miller is going to show up every day. And, and not be surprised that, oh my gosh, something happened in the market today. Something happened in the business. We lost our biggest customer, or the market shifted and we're upside down. And they should not know. I love what Tony Dungy said this. He said he never wanted his family to know when he came home after a football game, the family should not know whether or not the team won or lost. And I thought that was such a simple way that's how we live our lives. That we're strengthened, and we have that steeliness about us that life's impact should not affect my personality, my approach, my smile, my humor. That's kind of what my take is on how I should approach every day. Am I successful at that? Not always, but most of the time.
I mean, I think it's like this. If you have that intention, then even those days you fall short, you're still with that intention. You're able to keep that standard. And if you don't have that intention of, oh, I know these challenges are going to, put me through a crucible of life. It's going to make me better. I view those challenges with that intention. Then those challenges you can work through with a better mindset. And if you're like, I just want to avoid challenges every way I can. If I have challenges like you made earlier, if I have a challenge, it means I did something wrong. Instead of looking at, hey, I have a challenge, then I'm on the right path. And I think there's a mindset shift, especially in leadership, that changes. I've heard from people that say, oh, I want to get out of business because I'm so frustrated of dealing with challenges of working with people. And I look at that as like, well, it's a twofold thing. Is like the challenges of working through people are making me a better person, but also how can I, in that experience, make an impact on the other people so they're better too?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it really is, we look at it as an athlete looks at the practice or the workout. It's a challenge, but they know it's taking them somewhere. And I think that's a great approach, how we deal with our business challenges, people issues, that I can shy away from it, just like an athlete would shy away from going 100% in practice. I can shy away from it in my business in the same way, and I'm going to have the same result that the athlete's going to have. When he pulls back, their performance is going to show. And I think I go back to some of that foundation as we talk about challenges and being resilient, and some of the story, and I'll just share with you again, because it takes me back there. What is the foundation for my approach to challenges?
Yeah,
it's being a 13-year-old kid and seeing one challenge after another hit our family. We had all kinds of things. I was the youngest of 6. We had a small family business, sawmill, and we were always growing up working in the sawmill. No child labor laws. Those were all violated. After school, every day, we're in the mill. We're doing all that kind of stuff, running saws, all that kind of stuff. But just had a series of challenges that hit the family. It started with, my brother, my oldest brother was killed in a trucking accident hauling logs for my dad. 3 months prior to that, my brother that was a year older than me, he was 14. He got his hand caught in a gang rip saw and was severed, and they had to do surgery and bring it. Fortunately, they were able to save it. And we had those events happen. There was 2 other deaths in immediate family. My aunt and my grandmother all passed within 90 days of each other, and all these events were happening, and battling through those, watching how my parents endured that, and then it was about a year later, I come home from school, and the family business is destroyed by a fire. And having those moments where now I'm like, oh my God, what is happening to our family? We no longer have a family business. That kind of perception from the community that, we were known as, a small family business, and we were business owners. And I remember thinking as a teenager, man, I wish we had a business. And I always had that desire as a young entrepreneur to own my own business and to be functioning that way. But there was a big void that was left there. But after the mill was destroyed by a fire, there was something that happened that, again, I'm talking about steeliness, resilience. My dad got us together the family together in the kitchen, and he said, we don't know why all these things are happening to us, but we do know this. We know that God is faithful and we're going to be okay. And it was at that moment kind of like a stake was driven in the ground that says, you know what, no matter what happens, we're going to be okay. I don't know how. And he said that. He said, I don't know how, but we know that God's faithful. We're going to be okay. And didn't know what the journey would look like, but it was a long journey after that. But, that gave us the hope of facing that challenge. And then, of course, when I got out of high school and scraped a few dollars together and started my business on my own, cutting some lumber parts, making pallets, failing miserably. But that was the foundation that was built, was that if I'm going to survive, I better have a stake in the ground as it relates to my faith. Now, I think there's a lot of Christian business leaders, and they're also business leaders. And unfortunately, they're usually separated. And I believe that, as a faith-based company, you're integrated. We advertise ourselves as a faith-based company. And therefore, we put that statement that says, this is what we stand for. Our 4 pillars are trust, servitude, discipleship, and integrity. Now, trust and integrity, those are common in the marketplace. Servitude, and discipleship, that sounds a little churchy. But all that means is that we're serving each other before ourselves. And discipleship just simply means development, that everybody's going to have the opportunity to grow personally, professionally, and spiritually. Okay? Everybody gets that opportunity. Whether they choose to or not, that doesn't matter. We have 28 facilities around the country, and all walks of life are coming into our doors. And the desire is, through our chaplain program and other things, that they have opportunity to grow in those 3 areas. Whether they choose to or not, that's up to them. But that's kind of our mission, and that's how we face our challenges every day.
At what point did that we've reflected on this, and let me interject there. When my brother died, I was 14. That similar kind of relationship that we have, but for me, it wasn't until I was maybe in my mid to later 30s that I started to look back and really decipher what happened then and how it affected me through my early adulthood into business. When do you think, from a leadership perspective, that you started to reflect back on the stake that your dad put in the ground and how that really guided you in a way to be the leader that you've become, the impact leader that you've become to so many people?
Yeah. I think it was right away.
Okay.
Knowing that I was going to, I say that, I believe it was relatively immediate because it was such a dramatic point in my life that it left a mark. Challenges are going to leave a mark in your life, and what you do with it is what was demonstrated to me. As I said about my dad, watching that, having that example, that he wasn't persuaded. He wasn't kind of sinking back and saying, well, it was a good run. I guess we're done. It was like, okay, we'll take what's given to us here, and we're going to move on, and we'll figure it out as we go. And that's really what happens into our lives. We put strategic plans in place all the time, but until we execute, we don't know what it's going to look like, and it never looks like what we start with. But to answer your question about realizing that stake was so necessary. And I think that was early on. And I speak from a faith standpoint. I know, your listeners are maybe, not men and women of faith, or maybe they are. It's irrelevant. Truth is truth. And having a statement of, in my case, it's a statement of faith, but having that anchor that says, this is who I am, and I'm never changing. And that was really built in me. That's something I grabbed onto and said, this is who I am. I'm a man of faith, and this is going to be a business that is faith-based. And I'm going to let everybody know what I stand for. Okay, work with anybody and everybody, hire anybody and everybody, doesn't matter. That doesn't change who I am. And making that statement, I think, was so critical early on. Now, I believed that in God's promises. I believed that His promise. So I'm a 19-year-old kid. That has not, I don't have a business education. Obviously, I don't have experience in the marketplace. I just have this dream that I want to be a businessman. And then I began to search the scriptures and looking for those promises that said that allowed me to stay in the marketplace. And I believe that, the one scripture is Luke 6:38, and it says, "Give and it shall be given, good measure, pressed down and running over, shall men bring unto you," or heap unto you. And I remember reading that 19-year-old kid, and I had several scriptures like that I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create wealth, and I'm going to be a giver. That's why I'm in business. And so I'm going to create wealth, and I'm going to be a giver. And this particular scripture, Luke 6:38, gives me that permission to be successful, and men are going to bring the good business deals to me. And I would pray that over the business. And I believed, so as I'm, dreaming over this, I thought, man, I'm going to be a millionaire in 6 months? I mean, the word of God is truth. It has to happen. I didn't realize that faith's not faith until it's tested. And that brings us back to, just like everything else in life, the word of God requires resilience. People are going to try to steal it away from you, and life is going to try to steal it from you. And so I had to endure through that, but like we said at the beginning, at the end, God is faithful, His word's going to be performed, and His will's going to be done in your life. So that's how we started.
How has it been tested? Everyone listening in obviously has experienced the last 2 years of COVID, has had challenges from a leadership perspective, and I believe it's gone two ways. Either it's really celebrated the people that have this heart of servitude, because I think those people have shined, in my opinion, whereas the ones in business that have said, hey, I'm operating a business to get something for me, I think there's been a lot of challenges for those people. How has yourself as a leader in your business, wrestled with the challenges that come at you that you've had to deal with from a labor point of view for everything else? How has that, built this muscle of resilience in you?
Yeah. Fortunately, those principles, as I talk about, our 4 pillars, they kind of positioned us in preparation for this kind of a marketplace. When we seen shortages in every category, and our number one, being that we're labor intensive, low margin commodity business, our number one challenge is labor. And so we've always had that as our primary focus. We've had to be very creative in how we staff our facilities. But it's a basic principle of caring for our people, that their function, the individual's function, is secondary to the individual. So number one, production is very important in our industry, in the business that we're in. Production's number one. But the individuals have to know that they are number one. Production is number two. And we learned that early on, so we started having, as we grew, and we now have, 1,700 team members that we care for, but just making sure that every individual gets that message that what you're going through in life right now supersedes what is required on the plant floor today. So you got a major issue that you're dealing with. It might be addiction. It might be marriage problems. It might be, a teenager problem that people are dealing with at home. If we can, through our influence as business owners, if I can, in a very simple way, make your life a little bit easier and let you know that, if nothing else, that we care, that somebody at work cares that you're dealing with a teenager with addiction, or any of the other things that life brings at them. And so I think we had that already set in place when the pandemic hit and we started to see this pullback. Now we were, as 90% of all businesses, they still went to work. Their teams still had to show up. They had to work in the workplace. Our guys did. But really, having to amp that part up of showing that care. Yes, we had to change our wage structure and how we compensate. We had to adjust with that, just like everybody else did, of course. But even with those adjustments, most of industry still struggled drastically with 25% empty spots in their warehouses. We, on the other hand, were I think survived better than normal. We actually thrived in some areas, and to the point where our customers who were struggling began to take notice that we were still delivering. And pretty cool. We had one of our national customers, they're a global company, national customers, they came into our facility and began to ask questions of our leadership, saying, how are you staying staffed? We're down the street from you and we can't stay staffed. And so, we began to talk about, how we treat our people and how we care for them. And, not everybody's going to say, well, we have a staff of chaplains available, but making life coaches available for people, as a business owner, we don't have all the answers, but we do have resources. That doesn't mean we have cash to throw at everything. We have resources, meaning I have influence that when I call in a community as a business leader and I say, hey, I've got a team member that needs some help in legally, or I have a team member that needs some help with some marriage counseling. I have a team member that needs some help with addictions. I get immediate response because I'm a business owner. And if we can, as business owners, leverage that kind of those kind of resources, our team members all of a sudden think that we're champions, and they will become our champions. And they're telling their family members, "Hey, I don't care where you're working, you need to work over here. Oh yeah, and maybe you can go make a little bit more money down the street, but these people care about you." Mm-hmm. That's really the message, and I think that wasn't new to us because we had to do that. Over the years.
Did you have to do that because that was the catalyst that was going to help you get employees and retain those, or was it hinged to that stake that you drove in the ground, and so that's why you had to do it?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think it is part of that hinge to the stake that says this is who I am.
Yeah,
and we have a phrase throughout the company, and everybody knows the phrase, that this is the mission. The mission of Millwood is that people would see the love of Christ in all we do. Okay? Very churchy, but even the non-believers, non-faith people, they know that's the mission. Okay? And to each person, that means something a little different.
Yeah.
But that's that stake. And if we're going to really demonstrate that, then we're always going to take care of our people above and beyond. And in the early years, I wasn't able to pay but minimum wage. I could, and it was kind of like a default. I was like, well, I can't keep them here with money, so I'm gonna keep them here because I care for them and they know that I got their back when things go south. And that was when I had 5 employees. And so as we grew, that's how we got into the chaplain organization. As we grew and we began to have more than one facility and then multiple facilities, and I'm starting to think, what does the plant manager, what is his name even? I don't even know who's out there running my facility. And so that's when we had to kind of formalize and say, okay, here are the principles that we stand for, because we're never leaving that. I don't care what happens in the market. We are never leaving those 4 guiding principles, and then just getting our teams to rally around that and let them all take ownership of those principles themselves, where they begin to walk it out, and it becomes their principles, not mine.
I'd love for you. You talked a little bit about how, the story about the national account right down the road who couldn't keep their facility, staffed. You guys are delivering product. You're staffed, and they start coming and asking questions. I'd love to hear a couple stories about people. You mentioned this. You've mentioned me in the past. You have a very labor-intensive, dirty. If there was a Mike Rowe, he wanted to do a job, he would come to a Millwood facility and do a dirty jobs at your facility. It is that. I get that. I understand that. It doesn't. But yet, you lay this really it's a foundational picture image of, hey, we're working with people that are facing some of life's biggest challenges because of the work that we, do. A lot of people don't want to do. And so it's sometimes a lot of people that don't have a lot of other options, right? But I know through this, and I know through how you've operated, that you've become a major catalyst in who those people have transformed to be in life. And I'd love to know just some of those, because as you're thinking about that, I want to phrase this for the audience, is we can have this stake that you mentioned, we can have this ideology, but yet it's only important from a leadership perspective, in my opinion, it's only important when we see actual transformation occurring. Because that's what actually transforms your business, not Steve making a great deal and helping close that deal with the national account. It is, I have a guy who came to me that was addicted, this is the only job he could get, and then all of a sudden, sometime later, this is where he's at in life. I'd love to hear some of those.
And I love telling them because they're so inspirational. It really is, and I think we do that. We try to capture those videos and those stories, and sometimes we make business so strategic and so difficult when in fact it is just people relationships.
Yeah.
And making money, making margin, landing accounts, all those kind of things. Those really are a result of doing these other things. They can be your focus, and we have goals, and we certainly subscribe to them. But when you need to staff your facility, and you hear a story of an individual, we had this happened in this past year, where in our one of our eastern Pennsylvania plants, we had a guy telling his story, and we just caught the story. He said, I came to work, I had an ankle bracelet on, and I had made some mistakes in my past. Nobody was giving me a chance. Somebody else had told him, hey, go try working at Millwood. They're a second chance kind of company. And he said, I came in, and we, entry level position. He worked hard, and suddenly we gave him opportunities. He worked his way up and became a supervisor. He ended up being a team lead, and just continued to work in the facility. And he said when I came, I was staying at different people's houses, couch surfing, and as a result, I got my own place, and I felt really proud of myself. And he said, I just recently was able to purchase a home. And he said, as he got choked up a little bit, and he said, my mom told me, because he was able to provide a home and invite his mom to come live with him. And she had seen him in his worst when he didn't have a home and couldn't take care of his family, and certainly couldn't take care of her. He said, my mom looked at me the other day and said she's proud of me. And as he got choked up, and of course we're getting choked up listening to those kind of stories. where people are able to make a difference in their lives because we just give them opportunity, and we demonstrate that. So yeah, pretty cool stories like that.
How about someone who maybe worked with you guys that went on to somewhere else and took a lot of the lessons they learned and went and applied that to a different place?
Yeah, those are so cool when we have those opportunities. Like I told you, we're labor intensive. It's a low margin business, and so we know we're going to have turnover. And I remember in the early days, again, 5-6 employees, and I finally got a stable workforce, and we're working. And Dave Schenfeld comes to me and says, "Hey, man, post office is hiring, and I put my application in there, and they got tons of benefits, and I'm going to be able to almost triple my wage going to work for them." And I remember thinking to myself, like, well, that sucks. I can't offer them more money. I can offer them a little more money. I can't offer them triple. I can't offer them benefits like what they're offering. And I remember just saying, man, that's too bad. But I remember saying, and I told him, I said, hey, that I'm happy for you and your family. That's a good move for you and your family. And I hope you succeed and do well, and I'm happy for your family. And I remember leaving that relationship, even though I missed a good team member walking out the door, I kind of realized to myself that they're always going to be walking out the door. And I needed to accept that. And so my mission became that simple, that I know that people are going to leave the organization. My mission is that everybody that comes into my organization, when they leave better than when they came. And that, how they leave is how they enter. And I want to bless them on their way out. I'm not going to try to, anchor them into the facility where they could go out and get a better opportunity. If they can get a better opportunity, man, I'm all for it. And I want you to take that. And the reality is this, that kind of turnover is never going to hurt me. Mm-mm. It's never going to hurt the organization.
And people think it does.
The turnover that hurts us is the turnover where the no-call, no-shows, the people that get angry and just leave the organization. And we want to try to avoid that. We want to say, hey, if you want to leave, that's great. Hey, let's talk about it. What don't you like here? What are you leaving for? Because people should never run from something. They should only run to something. And so we try to send that message to our teams. We're trying to get better at it, that they come in with that mindset. When they come into the organization, that they, whenever it is their time is to leave, make sure you're running to something, and that you're not running from the difficulties of the current job, because it's tough. Yeah. But we're gonna navigate through that. But so we've got a few of those, over the years, a lot of examples where people will call back and say, the things that I observed while I was in your organization, I brought to my new company, and my new boss is so impressed that I'm implementing some of those concepts, or just those values. And that's really what it is. It's more, not strategy. Yeah. It's just bring your values to work, because that's what makes life fun. That's what makes it exciting, and it's what really brings us the rewards.
So, as one of the things that we discussed again back in October is, in kind of this position, why this podcast exists is to really help emerging leaders, leaders that are, younger Gen X, older millennial, that are now stepping into a lot of organizations. Your sons are a little bit younger, but yet there is this next level of leader that's coming in that is trying to bridge this gap between an older generation, younger generation. And one of the things that's where we talked about is just, man, we have to value resilience. And so what are you doing as you're actively, helping develop other leaders in your organization to really help them experience that and understand that, hey, it is an enduring process. It is you're going to have those challenges, and helping those leaders realize, experience that, and yet grow through that.
Yeah. One of the things that the training that we put to all of our team members, and I look at it, so many businesses, they put so much effort and time and effort on vision and strategy. Okay. And at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what we do. It's how we do it. And I think the how is it's behavior based. A business coach, Tim Kite, I'll give him a little plug. Tim Kite has an organization called Focus 3. He's the culture guru for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Can't have a podcast without plugging the Ohio State Buckeyes. Okay?
OH.
IO. So, sorry, SEC. You're having your day this year. You'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
But Tim Kite put together very simplistic, and I love it because it works for a football team. And if it works for a football team that has 25% turnover every year, then it's going to work for my organization that has some number, I won't disclose it on the air, of turnover. But that you're always driving the vision over strategy. And one of the principles, or kind of the theory behind it, is that we put so much effort in trying to build skill and hire talent, and we hire for a function, and we put all that effort in their place. But really, we hire for talent, but we fire for behavior. Mm-hmm. And we spend all of our time training and developing in the area of talent and skill, but we spend very little time developing behavior. And that's really been 100% of our focus in training is behavior training. And he breaks it down into a simple formula called ERO. E plus R equals O. Event plus your response equals your outcome. Okay? Mm-hmm. Keep it in that order. Very simple, very straightforward. And so all of our training is based on how you respond to the business that comes at us today. Okay? What problems happen today? You can't control them. The event happens. How you respond is what's going to make all the difference. And that's true in the work life today as we go into work, but it's also true in our life. And a lot of cool stories as we have developed this training throughout our organization, where guys are coming to work and they're saying, you know what, this is valuable. It's made me better in the workplace, but more importantly, it's helped me at home. And so many times we see this division between the workplace and the home life. And people call it work-life balance. It really isn't about balance. It's about integration. Integrating our work and our home life. It's an integrated life. You cannot have a firestorm at home and come to work and not have it affect you.
Yeah.
So they are totally integrated. And once we accept that and say, you know what, my home life is going through something. I'm dealing with it, and we're helping each other deal with it in the workplace as well. But just that principle, I guess, not get too far off track, but it's that principle of developing our behaviors, and those disciplines that go with that is the focus of all of our training and all of our development. And it's very rewarding when you see that having impact not only in the workplace but also in the home. And I think so many times we do our training and development as if it's only it's for the workplace. If it doesn't work at home, it's not going to work in the workplace either. So
yeah, the thing that hits me there is the fact that it kind of coming to this idea of resilience, like it's conditioning. And so instead of using strategy to think, hey, let's avoid those potential issues, there's part of that, your actions, but yet if you're conditioning that those things are going to happen, when they happen, it's like, okay, we got to deal with it. I mean, to use a sports analogy, it's like, as a quarterback, you're going to have an interception. If you don't have an interception, well, then you weren't trying very hard, right? I mean, it's something that's going to happen. It's how do you respond from that? And that's, obviously knowing Tim's work, and that's a lot of it. It's like things are going to happen on the field. How do you respond to that? That's going to determine your outcome. If you make a mistake, do you put your head down? Do you hang your head? Do you just kind of like, oh, I can't do this? Or do you like, all right, what do I do next time? How do I learn from it? And I think that's, to me, what is so valuable, because you learned the lessons as a 13-year-old, 14-year-old. And you had that figure in your life that helped you put the stake in the ground and make a positive decision forward. And not everyone's been blessed with that. This is not an indictment on my dad. My dad didn't do that. He held us together the best he could. And it was later in my life that I was kind of challenged and forced. And it's like, I needed to put a stake down in the ground and say, all right, let me evaluate what's happened. Let me figure out how do I evolve forward. And it's the example of people like yourself and John and mentors that I've had that have kind of continued to nurture that. And it's like, I choose to endure. One, I kind of like it. I don't mind it. It's growing up in agriculture, man. Is my word for the year is endure. And as I tried to explain to my wife, who did not grow up around cows, is like, I don't enjoy working with cows every day. Not at all. But there's 150 days of the year, maybe I do enjoy it. But I understand I have to deal with the 215 that suck in order to experience the 150. As a leader, we have to deal with 215 days of challenges to see those 150 days of just excitement, where you get to see a situation where a guy who comes in and he doesn't have any other chances, in working with him and caring more about him and who he's becoming as a person means more than how many pallets that he, fixed that day. Because if you continue to pour in him, he's going to make a positive influence. And all of a sudden now his mom's turning to him and saying, I'm proud of you. Man, that impact, dude, I want to be a part of that stuff, right? Those are the greatest rewards. I mean, to me, there's no number of commas that is more meaningful than that story. My opinion, maybe you different, but that's me.
Very true. That resilience, that steeliness that comes from that. I like the word you used about, that resilience is about conditioning. When we see the challenges, that's really what it is. It's an opportunity for me to be conditioned. And I'm going through conditioning, when we face those challenges. And it's going to make me better for tomorrow. Yeah. And I know that. So you embrace it and, you plow through until you get, clarity of what the actual answer is or how you get, overcome it. That is, it is truly about those people's stories, about seeing that need that's in somebody's life. And, one of the themes that we have for our teams, for this year is make a difference. And, every day we have that opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life. And when we make that kind of our mantra, to look for that opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life when they're coming into work and they've got, some serious issue that they, some baggage. Everybody's carrying some baggage. And a lot of times you can't solve the issue, but when you send the message that, hey, man, I care. As a coworker, when a coworker says that to another coworker, I'm here for you. Nothing I can do to change it. Just want you to know I care, and I know you're there. I see you. I hear you. Those simple messages mean so much, and that's when you get excited. That's way more than, hey, we beat 20% of last year's bottom line profit or top line or whatever goal it is that you have set for yourself.
Yeah. As you describe it, it's how I view it it's empathy. It's practicing empathy. For me, it's putting my arm around someone and walking with them. As many listeners have heard me say, and I think that's what you're actively doing. That's what you're choosing to do through your pillars, through, caring about, hey, I care about the production, But if I don't care about you as a person, then the production is just, it doesn't matter. And that's not walking together. I may put my arm around you and say, why aren't you doing the job? But it's like, I'm not walking with you if I don't care what's impacting your ability to take on the task. And I think part of that as a leader, though, and as we wrap up, it takes courage. It takes courage to put yourself in that spot, to condition yourself to build resilience. I think it takes courage to be in a situation to put your arm around somebody and care, because you're like, what am I stepping into that I don't know if I'm equipped to handle? But I believe in this. I believe it takes faith to step into it, to have that courage and know that even, you mentioned it, even if I can't, I'm willing to show you that I care. To me, that courage is always worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. I mean, it is that embracing that moment of when we see the challenge. It's that we have that split second decision to make, and it happens every day. It literally happens every day, where we have that split second moment of how we respond to an event, and our people see it. And when we can take that courage to embrace every challenge that says this is an opportunity. Every challenge is just that opportunity. And then all of a sudden you find yourself having a smile on your face because you're like, I'm embracing it. Yeah. I got a smile on my face. I'm having fun. And everybody else follows that same model as they go through the workplace. But I just go back to, again, I think that's my encouragement to young leaders that are maybe starting an event, and you got a side hustle that you think is going to develop into something significant. And it will. It can. Is to drive, have that anchor, have that stake in the ground, and really define it. Who are you? Answer that question. Who am I, and who am I never going to, I'm never going to change from these values and these principles. I might change what I do, my products, my whatever direction the business takes you, because that is something that we all know. And Tyler, you know it, and I know it, is that the path that we're taking, the journey, the strategy we look out 5 years, 10 years, I'm going to be this. It's okay to dream, but we never end up where we think we're going to end up.
No.
And and that doesn't mean it's bad or good. It's just, it's going to be different. And so don't get locked into the path that you think you have to be on. Because all of my journey has been, I started a path and I thought, I'm going to be this. Well, no, as I pursued it, other avenues opened up. Had I never pursued the wrong path, I would have never found the right path. Yeah. But anyhow, I guess the point is that I never move. You never move from the stake. Determine this is who I am. This is my anchor, and I'm never leaving that. And I'm going to make that my number one presentation regarding what sales pitch I'm given. So,
I love it, Steve. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the influence you've been in my life, and sharing your viewpoint, your story, your experience of resilience with everyone else. I know it's going to have an impact. So, thank you.
No, thank you, Tyler. Glad to be here.